Good evening, YouTubers. It's me, Johnny. It's December 29, 2021. Anyhow, I want to give an update for anyone who's interested in visiting Guatemala. The government just released a statement on their new policy to enter by air or by land. I'm going to wait and see. Well, I'm going to be crossing the border, but after the holidays, to see if this stuff is actually enforced. What I mean by this new stuff, they're gonna have two requirements to come in here. You're gonna have to have 2 shots, or in other words, your COVID passport, and you're gonna have to have a COVID test. Not just one, but you're gonna have both. And I expect if more and more countries do this, this is gonna happen all over Central and South America, with the exceptions of El Salvador and Mexico. It's gotten quite a few people upset. If I remember right, what I read was they're going to start all this January, I think it's the 10th or the 11th, but I think it's the second week of January. So this will not start during all these holiday travels. I've been looking online, and there's been quite a few airlines canceling flights, redirecting flights, things like that. So that's probably why they did this. Now, they had made this announcement, I think, last week, and they got so many people upset that they withdrew it. But it sounds like what they want to do is starting in the second week of, or January 10th or 11th. I'm going to wait and see if they actually do this. I'm kind of, well, I don't know. It looks like as more countries do this, they're going to do it. And I think it's going to start in South America. I'm not sure. But as of right now, you don't need like a booster shot. I'm waiting for that. I saw in the news Fauci wants to have the Fauci 4 times. The first shot, the second shot, the third shot, and the fourth shot. As of right now, they're not doing that, but they're just talking about it. It's going to be interesting. I don't think this is going to happen, but I've been wrong about the whole pandemic. I just can't imagine people like getting a shot every 6 months. I had read in Europe what they want to do. Again, they're not doing this, but what they would like to do is like every 6 months or maybe every year, they want to make it so you have to get a new vaccine, and all your old vaccines don't count. Whatever passport card you get, or whatever you know, the little thing on your phone will expire. It'll be something that expires that you have to constantly renew. If we start going down that path, then I would say in almost all the Western countries, you're going to have more and more tyranny. And I would guess with the slowing economy, the rising inflation is going to get really bad. So far in the U.S., I can't really tell. It seems like half the country's on board with it, the other half isn't. You would think that wouldn't work out, and I still don't think it will, but there's provisions where, like, if you don't do all this, your life is going to be really difficult. I could actually see it getting to the point where you can have a bank account, but you can never use it. You can have a bank ATM card, but it'll be turned off. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do. There's countries talking about, I mean, I shouldn't laugh. There's countries talking about doing that. Eastern Europe is going hard on this. Parts of Western Europe are going hard, but they're getting a lot of resistance as far as protesting goes. Eastern Europe, not so much. I think most of Central and South America will copy this, but it won't really be effective. Like here, there's no rules for having a COVID card to go to a restaurant or a bank or anything like that, but you do have to give your temperature. Well, you don't really have to. Some places you do, but whether your temperature's high or low, it doesn't matter. They always let you in. Quite a few of the restaurants are like that. No one really cares. It's just a kind of a routine. But apparently in South America, they're trying to enforce all this with the vaccine card. I don't see that really working out too well, but we'll see. Anyways, not much is going on here. I was on the forums today for Central America or Guatemala. It's getting interesting. It's getting harder and harder to open a bank account here without a residency, and I see that as being kind of the future. So like, if you want a banking relationship, you better do it now, and you better get it in jurisdictions where you can get it. A lot of people have had their bank accounts closed here. A lot of people who have residency here have had their bank accounts closed over the years, and they're getting pretty disappointed because every time they try to reopen one, the bank, if they do let them, they reclose it after a while. So they're really cracking down on that kind of thing. Another thing is there was a post online about getting residency in Guatemala. I'm surprised people are talking about this because I said this before in the past. A couple of years ago, Guatemala really changed the rules, so it's much more difficult to get residency here and meet all the requirements. And many people try, but usually they don't get it. So they were talking about that, and I was kind of surprised because I think it's starting to, I don't want to say resonate, but people are starting to catch on that they can't open bank accounts anymore. They can't get a legal residency. So if they want to stay here long term and overstay their visa, and or if they want to try to come clean and get a residency, it's almost impossible. Not impossible, but just almost impossible. About the only exception they really have now is if you want to get a residency by investment or as a retiree. It used to be really easy without the retiree. I got in on the old system. I'm very fortunate in that, so I didn't have to prove any income or anything. But it's not just income. It can only be certain kinds of income, and they're really strict about it. And I see that as kind of a trend in a lot of the world. They, meaning the establishment, is going to try to crack down on a lot of this. A lot of people leaving and legally not paying tax anymore. Another thing is I heard on not Rebel Capitalist. Trying to think of his name. Nomad Capitalist. He was making a point that could. Now, I didn't quite understand the video. If we're going to get to like where expats have to have some expat status in the States that you have to do, or you will eventually have to do, or you're going to get some special tax number to follow you to make sure you pay your tax. I'm not sure. All I know is if they actually try to do that and implement something like that, you're going to see a lot more people renounce their citizenship. A lot of successfully wealthy people are going to say, the heck with that, I'm just renouncing. Now, I don't think it will really matter because more and more you have two classes of society in the U.S. You have kind of the lower classes and the upper classes. They don't really pay tax, or if they do, they don't pay that much. It's really just, I would say, the upper middle class that pays the majority of the taxes now. In fact, if you look at the latest tax bill, it's very interesting in that the only people who really pay higher taxes is people in the highest tax bracket. And people who pay capital gains, well, there's going to be enough loopholes in the capital gains, so they still won't have to pay any capital gains tax, which don't bother me none, but I'm just saying, no matter how they do it, these taxes only seem to hit the taxes that hit the most are people who are more in the upper middle class, who have high incomes, and for whatever reason, they don't want to put their incomes in an LLC, or they don't want to do any tax planning. So, and then for poor people, the only taxes you're going to really pay is Social Security tax and the inflation tax. Of course, everyone pays the inflation tax, but once you put your money into an LLC, or once you get a good income in an LLC, there's a lot of ways to get around paying Social Security taxes. I mean, legal ways. I'm not talking about anything illegal. And you can defer income into the future, and eventually you can defer it, so you never really got to pay if you use an accountant and if you have enough time to do all the planning. If you short term, no, but long term, over time, yeah. Another thing is, I don't see the government ever really cracking down on business, because that's what drives the economy. And I see there's going to be more and more unemployment, so there's going to be more and more incentives to have people start businesses, or to have the people who already have businesses get more tax write-offs or incentives and not pay tax. Again, that's legally. So I think we're going to see a trend where there's going to be certain classes of people will pay tax, other people will pay a lot less tax, and it won't really be fair, and it will always be a political football, and it won't be easy like it is now, or it was, say, 5 or 10 years ago, to get another legal residency get a second passport and renounce. I think they're going to crack down on that, make that harder. If that is your goal in life, I would be cracking on that. Got two things you got to worry about: the future, where there's going to be a lot more tyranny, so you need a second or a residency or a second passport, or if not, you're going to have to leave the country and just live off the grid. Or the other option is, or the other thing I think people are going to have to worry about is rising inflation, rising devaluation. So you're going to have assets to protect yourself from the rising inflation and tax, and then you're going to have a residency, or if you don't want to have residency, get your passport, get out, and just kind of live off grid, live a nomadic lifestyle. Don't get caught up in the tax net. And probably you're going to have to live in certain countries to do that. So you probably will be less and less going to first world countries in your travels. And you're going to have to create a mobile income where it won't be taxed, which is not really that hard. If you're a U.S. person, you can get the I think it's $107,000 now, or if you can make up to $107,000. You don't have to pay any tax. When I say tax, I mean income tax. Technically, you're supposed to fill out a form and pay Social Security, but my feeling is a lot of people don't do that. But I don't know. Talk to your accountant. But as long as they have that exemption and you only making 30, 40, 50 grand, you're not going to be paying any, you're not liable to pay any taxes. You're supposed to fill out a tax return. At least that's my limited understanding. But anyways, I think those two things are going to be a big concern for Americans: rising cost of living and inflation, and two, taxes on people who can't get a mobile income or who can't put their assets into a LLC and do tax planning. That's what's going to happen. So those are going to be the two big concerns of people in the future. There's way more to this. There's a lot of reasons people are expating or leaving the U.S. and Europe, and it's not all taxes. A lot of it's politics, just stuff like that. There's other things too, as some of the commenters notice, like family formation, relationships. Things are a little different in other parts of the world, and that's why some people leave. And then I would say a big one for me is business opportunities. So the opposite sex, business opportunities, and low cost of living probably is the big three for me. Anyways, that's it for now. Like, share, leave a comment. Tell me what you think.